Well, Taylor, it's you were my most requested past guest, so it's so good to sit down with you again.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm actually really nervous, if I'm going to be honest.
And that's okay. You know, it's funny. I tell people that are speaking for the first time when they're learning public speaking, I said, one of the most important things you can do is actually let the audience know if you're nervous, because it endears them to you.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that, we think that we have to be like put together all the time. I think that's one of the things that people appreciate about your story is you're willing to put yourself out there and do things even when you're really scared. Like, it doesn't, just because you're on TikTok all the time or you have, millions of views on everything, it doesn't mean you don't get nervous still.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a mess, as we can all see, and I share that with the world, and all my emotions, I feel like, are everywhere. So right now, during this, I'm really nervous.
Well, what are you nervous about mostly?
I feel like I've just been through a lot, and you know how I make my videos and I show what I want to show, and I give everyone a little like sliver of what I'm actually feeling and whatnot. So when you come on here, you have someone else like asking you questions and sharing things you don't know, like if you should share or not, and you get talking and whatnot. So I get like nervous that, I might overshare or something. So, but I guess I always do that. But other than that, I think it's just, I've been through a lot, and so it's still hard to talk about, but I think I'm at the point where I can actually kind of think and talk clearly more than back then. I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, last time we had you on, I guess it was about 8 months ago, and you were right in the middle of everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So was that hard to do the podcast? I remember, there's a couple times where you mentioned you had to think about how you were going to answer it just because so much was going on in the background at that time.
Yeah, it was actually this was like almost the tail end. I think we were on the podcast, and it was a week or two later, everything kind of blew up on the internet.
Yeah, it was closely after.
So very close to the end, but yes, I was in the acts of everything. And so that was very interesting because you were asking me questions about marriage and how that's working. I think admitted 7-year itch, right? I think I said something along those lines, which is very true. Like I was at that was true. I obviously couldn't tell other things that were going on because it was other people's privacy, and I didn't want to do that. But the reason it had came out is because someone shared my stuff. So I thought it was only fair to back up my name, and that's why I had to all come out, because people were like, this was someone's private thing, why did you have to go on and share it? And I'm like, I didn't, and I don't think I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have if the affair wouldn't have came out, because it was just Taylor had an affair. And so I knew that all my friends would be scared for me to be around their husbands, and it was that's all they had though, was Taylor had an affair with one of her friends' husbands. And so of course everyone's gonna hate you and be like, how could you do that, right? And so I was like, oh hell no, yes I did do that, but let's not forget that everyone was hooking up with everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this story.
Sure. And so I didn't want to be just known as a homewrecker. Yes, I did mess up and go beyond our boundaries, but I didn't think it was fair for me to go down alone when there were more things involved.
Sure.
And if you want to bring my trash on, be prepared for your trash to be on. And
careful bringing somebody's trash in when they have, the platform that you do too.
Yeah.
That was ultimately the only difference between what, you talking and everybody else was you have millions of people watching pretty much everything you do. And
it wasn't even it wasn't the direct circle that was saying anything. It was that they were going to tell their friends, and their friends were the ones that thought it was fair to bring me down. And it was if you didn't want me to say anything, then you probably shouldn't have went and told your friends. Or if you did, be like, hey, I told you this, keep your mouth shut. But they didn't, and they confirmed everything. So I was like, now it's out.
Were you kind of relieved to have it out there and just be able to, own it at that point? Yeah. Yeah,
because they threw that ball first. And so I was like, okay, here it goes. You could have kept it quiet. And I would, of course, love to keep that quiet. That was, I had to bring myself down and I guess, announce what I had done bad. In order to explain the story. So it was I had to hurt myself more than anybody to get the story straight, and I would have loved to kept that private if I could have.
Yeah, how did it going public affect the way you and your husband were handling it? Did you guys have to change course on were you trying to work it out? Were you still in the middle of it? Because I feel like that's one of the hard parts that you had to deal with is, you weren't able to play it out before everybody kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah, it was a mess. It was very, very messy. Tate and I are very understanding, and he was my best friend. He's a good person, so he understood. I think he yes, he was mad. Everything went down. I think he had his day of hating me, blah blah. And then I think he felt sorry for me because all the the pain I was actually in. And it was more than just like, I went out and did this. There was like stuff that built up and like, you know, that made me do what I did. And so I think he ended up like, you know, like feeling sorry for me because he saw the pain that I was in. Not that he had to, like I felt bad for him, right? We were just feeling bad for each other, the mess. And then things were cordial. And then it was very sensitive because like the people still involved where everyone was calling everyone, right? Like the other wife was calling Tate. They were like connecting on that. And I was calling, you know, the person that I ended affair with, and we were connecting on that because we had nobody. Like everyone was just like, it was a mess. All our friends were just, ooh. So like for me and Tate to like, it was hard for him to be like talking with me if I was communicating with that man, right? So it was like messy before it got good. And then he got to a point, I think he was over it, so to say. I can't speak for him, but we got to a point where it was like we wanted to keep lawyers out. We wanted to do everything in like, what is it called? Mediation? Is that what it's called? It's been a minute. So yeah, we did everything very like just agreeing, and no lawyers were involved, and we were on the same page. We're still on the same page till today. So it ended up going good. I think I actually asked him the other day, I might be like fast forwarding, but I asked him, if you could go back and we did this all again to get you in the place you're in today, would you do it? And he was like, yes. And so, because I'm still healing. I can't like forgive myself. And I'm like, I feel so much pain for Tate and what I've done to my family. So I'm like, anything to help me, like make me feel better. So I asked him, I was like, would you do it again? You know, like, are you happy? And he said he's very happy with where he's at, and he would do it again. So unfortunately, it took all of this mess to get him where we are today. But
well, let me ask you a question, because one of the things that was interesting in your case is you were pretty quickly back into another relationship. I think a lot of people just assumed he was the person that you'd had the affair with because it was so quickly thereafter. Do you feel like you gave yourself enough time to heal? Probably, do you feel like being in a relationship helped you, or do you feel like maybe it would have been useful to have some time where you just were with yourself?
Yeah. I still get told this by like people that I still need just time. It's hard though, because it's like no one that's telling me that has been in my situation where I've lost everything and been alone and lonely. This is my first time living alone. I'm a single mom. I have none of my close best friends. I lost all of that. So I was very lonely. And do I think I needed time? I went on a few dates with other people, and like I didn't like attach to them or anything. So it wasn't necessarily that. I think I instantly fell for Dakota. And I don't know, like people are like, I think you just got attached to this man because of like what you were going through. But I think we match so well, and our personalities we work out so well. I think it was a hard timing of it. Like maybe if I'd met him now, right, it would have been healthier, because I won't lie, it's been very rocky because I'm still healing. Of course. I'm still going through all these things, and Dakota and I had a rough start because I won't go in the details of it, but like, basically, I met this great guy, and I wanted to start fresh and be honest. And I guess from like a talking point stage, I was being very open and honest because I'm like, I want to do things right. And some things like happened, you know, in the talking stage, and I was like felt betrayed, and I was like at that time. I look back and this is a very traumatic time because of the state of mind I was in. But something had went down, and I was like, how could you do this to me? Like, and then I would, you know, I'd break down and cry, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I'm like, Taylor, you just did this to somebody. And then so I would think about that, and then I would be like, oh my gosh, like I'd cry more. And it was just like so many things at one time. And I look back, and what he did, I don't think he had all rights to do what he did, because we weren't like dating. So it wasn't like, you know, cheating or anything like that. But because of what I just came from, and someone, like, I guess I've been betrayed all summer by, like, you know, friends, and I've just lost a lot of people. So for someone to do that to me, I was like, holy shit, karma's a bitch. Like, that's all I could think of, was like, I deserve this. I deserve this pain I'm feeling, you know? And so it's been rocky to, like, get over that. And I guess just to, like, let myself, like, love and be happy, because I think I'm just, like, still in pain from everything, you know? And because it was almost like I had already been stabbed, and, you know, basically that knife was turned at that time. Because I think in any normal circumstance with a normal grown guy, things would have been normal. You're dating, you're allowed to go do whatever you want when you're talking. That's just normal. But because of what I just came from, I was just
it's triggering in that point, right?
Yeah, I would call it a trigger, and that's what I'm going to, you know, start this therapy to understand, like, why am I bringing this up? Why can't I let this go? Because it's not a big deal, Taylor.
Well, I had some, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I started dating a woman a couple of years ago, and we were still we weren't exclusive stage. And then we ended up getting exclusive, and we got very close. We were, she even moved in with me for a minute. And I found out months later that in that weird period where neither of us was exclusive yet, she did end up hooking up with another guy. And one of my close friends was there at the party where it happened. And I felt totally betrayed, and I didn't need to. She didn't do anything necessarily wrong, but it sure still felt wrong,
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was so hard to give grace both to my friend that was there and to her. Sure. But I didn't really have a right to be mad either. And I was like, well, shit, this just kind of sucks. But it doesn't mean that it didn't trigger me.
Yeah, and I feel like I've told my mom this story, my family, my friends. I'm like, guys, why can't I let it go? It's not a big deal. Like, and then they're like, at the end of the day, if it hurt you, it hurt you. That's that. It doesn't matter. Because I'm like, I just want someone to tell me, be like, shut up. He did nothing wrong. You're good. But everyone's like, well, if you were hurt, you were hurt. And there's nothing else to say about it. So it's like, but I think there's like a rooted issue there. It's not that, it's something much deeper. And so I feel bad for him because I put him through like hell.
Well, let's back up a little bit. I want to kind of get into this because last time you were here, we were talking about marriage, and you talked about the 7-year itch. And looking back at the video after everything came out, there was some pretty funny facial expressions. I think you were doing your best to tell the story the way that you needed to. But I do want to talk about, and you said that you have no problem going there. So how did you guys go from super happy Mormon family to swingers? I mean, let's just the whole story if you could. Like, because I think there's a lot to learn from it too. I think that there's a lot of people, say they get the 7-year itch or they get a little bit bored in their relationship, and you creak the wrong door open, and it's very hard not to let certain things into your life. Yeah.
So I would take it back to Tate and I. Gosh, I don't even know. I guess it happened one night, right? It just happened. I think we were a little like stagnant in marriage is how it started. And, things were like mundane. 6 years, you're 2 kids deep. And to be honest, I mean, there's a lot of married couples that can understand what I'm saying. And whether you admit it or not, they understand what I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, I have a lot of married friends, both men and women. And people, they struggle. You go through ups and downs, ebbs and flows, things like that.
And sometimes boredom. And that's okay.
Sure.
Like my mom even said that. There are times I'm bored in my marriage. Does that mean I'm going to go out and do what you did? No. But I can admit to that. And so we were at that, that time. And
how long ago was this, by the way?
Now probably 2 years ago from now.
So about a year and a few months before everything kind of hit the fan.
Yeah. So about a year and a half, I would say it went on. Timing kind of, but around that time average. It started very, very slow. We were just at a party one night, and we threw a cabin party and went up there, with friends. And I had been wanting to drink, and drinking was an issue between Tate and I because he was like, absolutely no. So I had partied before I even got married, and that was like a no for him. So I, was clean for most of our marriage. And then at the very end, I started to ask, like, I just want to be free. Like, can I have a drink here and there? And he was like, sure. So he let me have that. And then we went to a party. I was drinking, and then that was the first night he ever got intoxicated. So he, at 28, I think at the time, that was his first, time ever. And so we were we were there, and then the guys, I think, no, I know. I'm sorry, this is hard. They told me and a friend to make out. And so I've already done all the party shit, so I was like, sure.
You and a girlfriend.
Yeah. I was like, I'll make out, like, whatever. And we saw that it, like, turned the guys on. So I was like, we're like, cool, I'll do this for my husband, whatever. No problem. So we're, making out. And then I think that night they might have, like, taken pictures of us in lingerie. And then that was it for that night. How
did he feel the next day after being sobered up again? Because I know that your background, you're right. You especially, I took my first drink of alcohol at 34 years old.
Oh,
yeah. So I also like, in that first time where you get drunk, I mean, it's a doozy,
Yeah.
But how did he feel waking up the next day, both with him getting drunk and with you know, being a little bit more risque?
So I don't think it like affected him too much. I don't think he went like overboard or anything. So we were driving home and we had this like conversation. He's like, so basically it was like, so that happened. And I was like, yeah, like it's just kind of
crazy,
like,
huh?
Interesting. You know, like how do you talk about that? It's never happened, right? We were like, whoa, you know, I think the guys were on cloud 9. So they were like, whoa, yeah. Like it sparked like something exciting. And so I didn't care. Like, I was just like, whatever, it happened. I've done that before. I'm like, I could let that go and not think ever again about it. And so we were like, yep, that was fun. I was like, yeah, whatever. And so then they started to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on cabin trips because like we would go and that's what would happen. And so I think for a hot minute it was just making out, maybe some pictures, and then we would all us girls would get in the same bed, and then the guys would join, like, you know, behind. And so then one thing led to another, and they started to touch each other's like us, you know, and switch, like just touching. We never actually switched at this point. And so yeah, they were just groping, and then let's say a year. So it kind of stood like that. And then we would play games. We added more people in, and you can kind of gauge who would be interested and who wouldn't. I don't know how we did that, but we did. And so
throw fishing lines out and see who bites.
Kind of how they talk. Like, I think the guys would gauge how the guy, we would throw parties, and I think you could tell who would and who wouldn't. And so there was another couple that came in.
By the way, after our last interview, it was funny because for years people have talked about, you know, these parties in Utah. And I've always been like, I know so many people in Utah. I have thrown most of the parties in Utah. I know everybody that parties in Utah. I've never heard of these swinger parties that supposedly are happening. That's what I would always say. And then all of a sudden it was like, even on the podcast, I was like, this will be really cool. I'm going to get Taylor on so people can see that you can be sexually like a little bit more out there on your TikTok, but it doesn't cross a line. And then like a week later is when everything, and I was like, all right, maybe I'm just naive.
No, well, I wouldn't even call them like swinger parties, because at this point no one has switched. So I wouldn't even say swinger parties. It was just like parties of like, people want to like share. I don't know.
Was it mostly LDS couples or mostly non? Or I only asked because we're in Utah.
Everybody was LDS that was involved. Yeah. And I've heard about swinger parties because I go to Lifetime. So I've heard about actual swingers where they're switching with other people and doing their own thing. We never like did that as far as that, but we'll get to that point.
Sure.
But so yeah, I'm trying to think where we were. Okay, so then we bring another couple in about a year. So it was the same thing for about that, like just like, you know, making out. And then it wouldn't happen like every weekend, right? It was like it was sporadic, so cabin trips, whatever. And then we started to throw, I think we couldn't get enough of like cabin trips that we started to throw parties at our house. And I was throwing parties probably twice a month, like at my house, like ragers.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we have another couple involved, and then we would play like, don't judge me, but like spin the bottle. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I guess we all thought we were in high school again. So, and then we would blindfold, let's just say me. And then every husband would come and kiss me, and I'd have to guess who was who. And so
you guys literally were fulfilling that high school fantasy games and stuff. Yeah, the experience you never got in college, exactly. All that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have all these LDS people that are, a lot of the, I would say that they're like each other's first, if not like they haven't, you know, experienced a whole lot. So this is very exciting, very fun. And I mean, I can say that, but like I had all that once upon a time, but so it's like, but I understood how this was exciting to everyone else involved.
Well, it's one of the things I'm grateful for that I've, you know, been in the after college single scene as long as I have is, you know, you get that out of your system. I have so many friends that when they get divorced or even, you know, they always kind of have this feeling of like, gosh, what's out there? What did I miss out on? And it would bother me if I had never experienced it, if you didn't know what it was. And just so curious. I 100% understand that as well. Yeah.
And then also I think a lot of us were in our heads is like, we're like married, but we're getting to make out with other people and not get in trouble. I think that was like in our head. It was like,
oh boy.
Yeah, like I think that's what was going on in like at least most of our heads. At least I can admit to like being like, okay, like all of us are. This is because at this point I'm not feeling any guilt.
Well, I was going to ask, did anybody start catching feelings? There was any guilt feelings from some of these couples? Or?
Yeah, yes. So for a while, I don't think there was any there should have been guilt still, but there wasn't for me. I can say that I was just like, okay, like I'm not doing anything wrong. My husband knows. I felt pretty like, even though it's still wrong, we were doing wrong things. Like, but that's where you're so far gone. You're not feeling guilt, right?
When I say you're just doing very dangerous things, right?
Sure.
And I mean, there's so many people out there that have talked about these different. There's a guy right now on social media talking about they get hall passes and stuff, and it's just a losing game. If you want, I don't think men are wired, especially, and women actually, to share that partner. If you truly have that deep love, there's no way on God's green earth that you're going to be okay with them messing around with other people. But yet we convince ourselves that this is going to be okay, that this is just fun or exciting. And it is, but it always is going to be at the detriment of that deeper love.
Yeah. And I could say that's where I was like, I think tapped out in my marriage. I had asked for a separation twice in the midst of all this. At least I was like, I need space. I need to think clearly. And so I would think I was tapped out before I even got divorced. And so that's why it was easier on me. Not easy, but like.
Yeah, you're 1 foot out the door already. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And so where I don't think some of these people might have been at that point. And I wasn't getting jealous, but I don't think there was a lot of jealousy because obviously if there was, we wouldn't have been able to do all this, right? Like, anyways, I think when we started to see that people were catching feelings is when it got messy. So Tate, I was very open with Tate, like up until a point, until I wasn't, but like we could kind of see like people were catching feelings. There were 3 of us out of the 6 that caught feelings.
6 couples or 6 people?
6 people.
Okay.
There was 3 of us that caught feelings. I being one of them. And then, so Tate didn't know I caught feelings, but he could see some of the men catching feelings and he could see it. And then I got to a point, like I was just like so tapped out, and that's like, me and this man, like I think we were just like friends emotionally. It was very like innocent for a while. Like we would all text each other, this entire group. So it was very normal to talk all the time, which is still not normal in a married. Like we were texting, like I was texting all of them. Like we were all texting, and then we'd be in group messages on top of it. We were hanging out twice a week, which is still probably not normal.
Well, I have some friends, and one of their wives was texting the other friends like way too often, and I called bullshit on it. I said, dude, you need to tell her to stop. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't text the exact thing with your husband connected to the thread, that's inappropriate.
Yep. Yeah.
And I always say this to people too. I'm like,
yeah.
Like you know when you're being shitty. You know.
And I actually remember telling Tate, I was like, they're like texting me like a lot. Like I'm getting texts like. I would get like, hey, good morning. How are you feeling from the party last night? And I would show Tate, and I was very open for a long time. And like, I was a very trusting wife for 6 years, never lied to him, very open about literally everything. He had passwords, everything to my social media. So I didn't hide a whole lot. So to me, even I was like, how did I even do this to my best friend of 6 years? Like, I don't know where I lost all of that, but like one day caved. And so like we were, I was texting, and then, it was friendship, innocent, and then you're being intimate with these people. So I eventually created a crush, and that's just where it started. And then you have a crush, you're being intimate, you're texting them, you're seeing them twice a week, you're connecting with them, not only emotionally, but physically at this point. So you're playing with fire. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. Like, so, yeah, and then it grew into an emotional affair. So a lot of it was just talking. I only messed up I messed up one night was the affair of like physically. And, but all of it was emotional. And I'm not saying that like that's any better. Emotional sometimes worse because there's feelings involved. I would, I think might even be worse.
I think for the man, it's worse if the woman has an emotional affair because that means they've pretty much moved on from you. Whereas with a woman, I think it's worse if the man has a physical affair. That's kind of what I've understood from what I've studied, but.
Exactly. And I was doing research during this, and I was like, why am I having these feelings? And I felt horrible. And I actually, told this, like, man, I'm not going to do this. Like, I am a good wife. Like, I can't. And like, so I was in a very weak stage. And because I think we were all, feeling very shitty about ourselves, and we were partying. Like, we were getting hammered drunk. There's a reason we were doing all this. I think some of us were miserable. And then at this point, I'm feeling guilty. It got a little crazier. And then Tate comes to me and he's like, we need to cut this off. Like, we got to quit. And so at this point, I am liking it. And so I'm like, but why? And because I think he can see people are creating feelings. He can see his friends liking me. And I think he's probably scared that I'm going to like maybe one of them. So he's like, at least if we do this, we can't do it with friends. It's got to be strangers. And I'm like, I can't do this with strangers. Like, but I think in his head, he was like, we're never actually going to do this with strangers. So it's kind of probably going to be cut off, right? And then so I would tell, you know, the others, like, we're not going to be doing this. And then I think some of them had an issue with that too. They weren't ready to be done. I know they did tell me that they didn't want, you know. And so one night we are at a house and we're drinking. I think it's a Wednesday night or Tuesday, to be honest. We go to a house and I'm like feeling guilty at this point because I knew what I was like doing, and I'm miserable. I think I'm almost to like 95 pounds at this point, maybe even 90. So I'm just sick. Like I'm feeling awful, full of guilt right now. So I go there. So basically the reason we were at this house is because earlier that day there was like a rumor that one of the men had fallen for me. And so we were trying to clear that up. Everyone in the friend group was trying to hide it. And so I would like to talk about, like, basically I just found out that not only was I a liar, but everyone around me, everyone was lying to everybody. And that's what sucks is like I took the fall for being like a shitty person, being shitty to my husband, my friends, and everyone. And it's like everyone is being shitty to everybody. Like, and I saw that and I was like, you can't trust anybody. Like everyone's lying to everyone right now. And so and playing innocent, which was crazy to me because everyone had a secrets and they would tell me the secrets. So I'd be like, you guys are all acting innocent right now. And that's what, like, I think I was raging online because I'm like, you guys aren't like innocent. Like you guys have all messed up before, you know? And not, I'm saying they haven't cheated before, but they've done shitty, like sketchy shit, you know? And so anyways, where was I going with that?
You were saying at that party,
yeah. And so I get there, I'm taking shots like no other, like, and I black out. So I don't remember much of the house. I just remember fighting with Tate about something. And I was like, I'm going to a friend's house. Like, I just need space. And so I go to my friend's house and she's like helping me. I think everyone goes home. And then it was really weird because the men in the friend group were calling me. Where are you? Are you okay? What are you doing? So I have Tate and then the men in the friend group are like calling me. And then one of them's like, hey, can I come pick you up? And I was like, I think that's kind of inappropriate, you know, me and this man. And then he's like, no, like my wife said I can. And so he comes and picks me up. And that's the night I mess up. He comes and picks me up. And then
you were already pretty plastered drunk that night.
Yeah. Like I can remember very few bits and pieces like of it. But I do remember like I wouldn't deny, right, that happened. Right. So I was, you know, enough there to know, you know, that it happened. And then I go home that night. Tate comes and picks me up. I go home. I lied to him that night and say I was just talking. And then we go to bed. And so it was like a normal night. He wakes up. I wake up and I'm feeling obviously horrible. And he comes in. He's like, did you do anything last night? And I deny it and I say no. And he's like, okay, because so-and-so is thinking you did. And so it's a mess. And so I'm like the guy calls me and we're like, let's just not say anything. And so I'm like, I think we should just say it. Like, we're in trouble. Like, let's just come out and say it. And so like, I don't know what to do at this point. And so I'm like denying it, you know? And then I finally, like, Tate's like, we already know, just come clean. And so I think they both like, you know, did that to each other. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I did. And so I, you know, admitted to him. And I'll never forget that day. It was the most, I think, a traumatic day for me. Like I saw the look in his eyes and like to betray like not only my husband, but he was like my best friend. This is someone I like respected. And so it hurt me to see that hurt in him. And I was like, what have I done? And then to betray like the wife, right? My friend. And I wasn't, when people say she betrayed her best friend, I met this girl like 3 months ago. So we weren't like best friends. Like the other girl was like one of my best friends. Right. And so, like to betray them and to not tell, like, I guess one of, you know, someone else like caught feelings and I didn't say anything about that. And I was just in a weird spot, but I was pretty open with Tate with all of it except the person, you know, I messed up with. And Yeah, so then I admitted it, and it was a shit show from then. It was very messy, and then I had to tell my whole family. I told my mom that day because she was like, "What is going on?"
This is about when everything was hitting the fan publicly as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
So this is all like privately. I think shit hits the fan a week later, and I see people on my TikTok saying, "Cheater, cheater, cheater, you cheated," and I was like, how does anyone know? Like, what? And so I was like, okay, all right, like, yes, I am. And it hurt because I already knew. I was like, I already know I effed up. Like,
so when that was all going down publicly, I mean, it was still pretty fresh that you and your ex-husband had just talked about this happening. I mean, it's like when we did the podcast, probably when we shot the podcast, it hadn't even happened yet. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, no. Like any of the mess?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
No. That was after, like, I think a week after.
Okay.
But yeah, so then I think he had like his 2-day, he was freaking out, so sad. And it was, oh my gosh, it was just crazy because it was like, what are we going to do now? I think, after he got some clarity, we were like, are we going to stay together? Are we going to work on this? And I think in his head, in our heads, we could have maybe worked it out because he kind of knew like this wasn't just like an affair. It wasn't like this just happened. It built up to that. And I think he knew that we opened the doors to this, like,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my parents were like trying to tell us is like, Taylor messed up, yes. But if it would have been reversed, we would have blamed Taylor just as much for opening those doors. It's like you were playing with fire. What did you guys expect here? Like if it wasn't Taylor, it could have been you. So like, not that I'm not saying.
Well, and by the way, I think there's a lot of people online who are very loud about you being cheated, all these different things. But I think 98% of the people probably understood that you both really screwed this thing up together. Like I don't think people would put the blame just on you. You'd have to be a pretty unreasonable person. Yeah.
And so I think after all of that and getting, hurting Tay, I took the blame this summer, I think, for everything. I took the blame for my marriage. I took the blame for like I guess hurting all these people online because we knew that Mom Talk got involved because I didn't say names. So that's where people were going crazy. They're like, oh my gosh, who was it? And like, I didn't say names for the sake of those people. But I mean, like, if you're going to go out and out yourself, like, and say stuff, you're doing that to yourself. Like I said, no names involved.
Did some of the other couples end up outing themselves?
Someone online and said it wasn't me, blah, blah, blah. Or like, and people were like, Taylor never said it was you. Like, so that's where I started to like go batshit crazy. Like, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I think there's so many lessons. This is really one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on again was what lessons did you learn? What would you do differently looking back now?
Yeah. I love this because that's what I like kind of like want to like shift towards like the healing process. And like, I've had people come up to me and be like, I'm in the situation you're in. I'm doing something like this. How do you help me? And so I was like, one, I'm the last person I would be taking relationship advice from. But two, if I can help you, if I were to go back, I would have just got the separation. Like, instead of I was gonna hurt Tate that way anyways. So I should have just left at least and got that separation and clarity and then try to figure out what I wanted then instead of doing it like deceitful and behind his back. So if anyone's in that situation, if you're like, talking to someone emotionally, you're in an affair, it's like, or you're thinking about it, you're right there almost doing it. It's like, it's like stop and just kind of think and just ask for separation. That way, if you want to go out and seek someone else, just do it a better way, right? Like if you're out of that, then go do it. There's no right way, but like to hurt that person less.
Yeah, there's a better way.
Yeah. So I would have done that differently with Tate. I would have just got that separation and kind of just, gone that way rather than hurting him. And that's what I would have done differently.
What would you say to the couple that's a little stagnant in their relationship and is considering, they haven't yet, but considering starting to mess around with, doing some of the things you did with, even if it starts innocently, like, making out with another girl or touching and things like that? I
would say it doesn't end well. I do know that there are like swingers all over, and there was someone like on TikTok that she's like she talks about it. She's confident and it's norm. That's their norm. They've done it for years now. And to me, it's just like you're saying, if you're in love with this person, there's no way you're going to be okay with sharing them. And I agree because like I'm thinking about Dakota and like sharing him. a girl looks at him the wrong way and I want to kill her. So that's like, that's telling you the difference like I'm in with my marriage and with him, right? Mm-hmm. So with Tate, there was no jealousy at all. But with Dakota, like I would die if something like that happened. So it's just like kind of, I would say, yeah, don't do it. It doesn't end well. It's not worth it. And if you are at that point, then there's probably something wrong with your relationship. I'm no expert, but I would say either work on your relationship and try for that, or if you know that that's not satisfying you, then to like at least don't hurt the other person and go out of it, you know?
Yeah. Do you wish that maybe you tried other things like, I don't know, like whatever married couples do to try to get past that hump? Because I do think that a lot of couples, you know, I've seen it a lot with different friends that I have and stuff where they're in that bad place, but then they do come out of it. They work through some things. They, you know, a lot of times travel and just new experiences in different ways that are healthy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a million things we could have done, you know, therapy and Tate didn't, you know, necessarily want divorce or separation or any of that. But I think him now would be like, look back at it and be like, oh yeah, we needed this, you know? And I think we might've just been comfortable and he might've been comfortable and like, I don't, you know, want to start over and all that. But I think we would have ended regardless of that happening or not.
Fair enough.
We were on
did you guys ever think about, or did you ever do therapy?
Nope.
Did you ever bring it up or nothing?
No. Yeah, we didn't. And other than that, we were good, like I would say best friends. We were roommates. Remember, in separate bedrooms. So I don't think that had much to do with like our divorce or anything, because it just, or maybe it did. I don't know, but we were roommates. Yeah. So I think he might have even been more clocked out than he thought he was, and that's why people are like, how have you and him moved on so fast? And it's like, I think we were moved on in our marriage, which is, you know, that's why we can be in relationships, and I think we wanted to feel wanted and loved and to love someone, and so that's why we both jumped.
Yeah. How did all this, after it all shook down, how did it affect your relationship with the church? Because I know you still talk about, you're still an active member of the LDS church. How did it affect you in those regards?
Not a whole lot, because I feel like church is for the sinners, and I've always believed that. It's like, that's what it's there for. It's not for the perfect. And so it was more embarrassment. Like I was going to a singles ward a little bit after, and I was so embarrassed because I was like, oh, like what if people know my story, you know?
And they all knew.
A girl came up to me, and she came up to me after, and she's like, I just want to say I love you, and we're so happy that you're here. I'm like, So like just walking in was just like kind of like nerve wracking, but I've always been one that like, I don't go for the people. So if you hate me, you guys are all looking at me and judge me, that's on you. I don't care.
I'm good for you.
So I'd never, you know, blame.
Did you get called in and stuff and have to deal with all that? Or did they pretty much,
the church
just took care of it with your marriage stuff?
Yeah, I haven't actually talked to any bishops or anything. They did call me about, I don't know what it was, but it popped up, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. I'm like, I ain't answering that. Like, I don't know what this is. But yeah, I haven't talked to anyone, which I need to. I think I want a blessing. I want to talk to my bishop, and then therapy is like my next steps.
Cool. If you, I have him speaking at my first annual event for my coaching group that I'm doing February 10th and 11th. And one of the speakers is a guy named Matt Townsend, and he's actually in Draper, Utah, but he's the best relationship expert I've ever met.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'll give you his info afterwards. I'm telling you, this guy is a wizard, and he's an LDS guy, but okay, you know, the most understanding dude you've ever met in your life. And I think he's I have him speaking, doing a 3-hour workshop at my event because he's just so good.
Is he a therapist or like
therapist, marriage therapist, relationship therapist? Yeah.
I want to get in. Me and Dakota want to get in couples therapy because
this is what he does.
It's just so rocky, and
I think everybody should be in therapy, whether your relationship's going great or not. There's just always blind spots and things and ways to communicate that maybe you just don't see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want that to like, at least I want to give us like a fair shot, because I feel like we haven't gotten one because of like my state of mind, and he has a past of himself. So it's like putting our past together and us together is like, it's been really hard, but also we connect so well. So it's like, I just want at least a fair shot. And if we, you know, don't end up, then at least we tried.
Well, this is what I tell people is, you know, a lot of times relationships don't make sense on paper of people being together, but the hardest piece is that connection. Mm-hmm. So when you find that, you fight for that. And it doesn't matter if you both come in messy or you got things to clean up. I think that when you find that connection, it is worth fighting for. So props to you that, you know, recognizing that, yeah, it is messy and it's still worth fighting for.
Yeah. And that's what he tries to, you know, tell me. He's like, he dates like he's been single too, like he had a relationship, but like he's been single a lot of his 20s, and he's like, the thing is I can go out with 300 girls after you, and I'm not gonna probably like any of them. And he's like, I went out with so many this summer, like dated around, and he's like, my connection with you, he's like, I knew that he knew what he was getting into with me, right? He's like, kids, mom talk, swinger talk, whatever, swingers shit. And so he was like, I knew that it was gonna be hard, but I couldn't find a connection, you know, like that with someone, and it was you. And he's like, I couldn't resist that, because it's like, will I ever find that, you know? He's like, they're rare to find. So when you do find it, he's like, it is hard, but he's like, we have this connection. So it's like, we can go find someone else, but maybe we won't have that, you know?
Well, and so after everything went down, you and your husband decide you're getting divorced. Did you consider creating a relationship with the guy that you had essentially had the affair with? Mm-hmm. What happened there?
Yeah. I was, I think, delusional at that point.
Sure.
And so I was like, yes, I think we can make this work.
Well, you
and
still
like,
probably had feelings, right? I mean,
Sure.
that's the thing. It's not that, you know, those don't just immediately go away.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, I researched a lot of it was like like all the things you feel in an affair is like dopamine, all those like high endorphins that you think are love, but they're actually just not love. And so I there were feelings, but the second I met Dakota was like, it was gone. It was weird.
How did you guys meet?
On Instagram. He just messaged me, and like it was weird because I got excited to like see his name. I was like, this guy's like reaching out. I was like, hell yeah. But yeah, so the guy and I, we talked, you know, for about a month, I think, like this summer. And my family was like, just so you know, like if you date this man, like he'll never be welcome. Like, cause it's like, and I'm sure his family felt the same about me. You just wrecked 2 marriages. Like,
Sure.
There's no way. And so, and you have to remember, everyone's feelings are so high. They're like, hell no. And Tate was, of course, you know, upset. And
Was he
like,
close friends with the guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he felt very betrayed by him
Of course.
too. And he wanted to kill him. You know,
course,
he's like,
yeah.
if I ever see him, I'll kill him. Like, not obviously real, I'm sure, but like that's his, you know, and his thoughts. And so, you know, the wife is like, she'll never be around my kids. And Tate's like, he'll never be around my kids. It's like, how are we really going to ever make that work? And I think at the time I had nobody. I had nobody on my side except this person. We had just lost everybody around us. Everyone hated us. And so, yeah, I guess latched on to like, what is it called? Like a trauma bond. And so it was like,
Sure.
we were kind of connected in that way, but I wouldn't necessarily say any of it was real. And I got over it within a day. And so, yeah, it's a crazy time.
Yeah. Well, how has it been with your TikTok and everything you have going on? I mean, you've built quite the audience, both on Instagram and TikTok, but particularly in TikTok. How did it affect your fan base? How did it affect the way that you're creating content, just as your business of TikTok? How did it affect all of that?
It was booming. It was really good because of all the views I was getting and everyone talking about it. It was one of the highest topics of that summer. Talked about. And so it was hard for brand deals, right? Because it was like, is this negative or
Sure.
positive?
So yeah.
But I did get a lot. I mean, yeah, I made the most I've ever made in that year. But it was good. And then I met Dakota, and it was great because he was like, and I was even considering OnlyFans. So at this point I was like, I gotta support my family. So, you know, like I was considering all these awful ideas, and then I asked these people like around me, and they're like, yeah, like why not? And so Dakota was the first one who was like, no.
Yeah, it's hard to come back from.
Yeah, Dakota's like, no, you shouldn't do this. Like, think about your kids and your future. And he was the only man that like really told me, no, you shouldn't do this. And so I think in my head, I was like, oh, I think this guy cares about me or something, you know? And so, and he's like, you should try to shift, like, he said it in the nicest way. He was like, you should try to shift from all this drama and this negative to like, make it a positive. Like, show your healing, show you can learn from this and be a good mom. And so he really cared about me and just wanted to see me succeed. I think dating or not, he just like genuinely cared and like saw me suffering, was like, you should help yourself, you know? And so I've tried to slowly like shift. I did, you know, do a lot of the drama stuff, and a lot of it because it was like I was still finding out things, and I was like, and so I would go on and I would get so angry, and I'm like, yeah, you guys want to play? I'll play. Like, you want to talk? I'll talk. And so I just had a lot of anger in me, and I was hearing like, she said, he said, you know, they told me this story. They told me what actually happened. I was like, yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear what happened. And people were like, we're going to come on and tell the real story. And I was like, get on and tell the real story then, so I can lay it all out and say whoever was involved. I was like, please do it.
I have this thing that I do when people gossip. It's a way to squash it, basically. So people, they'll come to me about one of my friends or something, or they'll say something about me, and I'll say, okay, well, where'd you hear that from? And if they won't tell me where they heard it from, because I'll always say, well, let's get me and that person in a room. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Because I know damn well that didn't happen. I know damn well that's not how it went down. So let's talk about it. And if they won't tell you, that's like, then you're the one that's creating the gossip.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't want you in my life if you're going to be spreading gossip. So if you want to run it up the ladder, and we'll talk about whoever told you and then whoever told them until we figure out who created this fake rumor.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to squash rumors because, my buddy Paul always says, a man of integrity expects to be believed, and when not, he lets time prove him right. But it's like when people are saying things that are just not true, or they're trying to make you look bad, you have to squash it. And so I always just call it run it up the ladder. I had somebody on TikTok the other day, was some random account, it was a couple of weeks ago, and they were trying to say that, they said like, Jimmy Rex is a fraud. He hired my buddy to cater his Lake Powell event and never paid him. Well, I've never catered somebody to Lake Powell. I've always had one of my friends do it. They come as part of the trip. And so I said, okay, let's get your friend. Let's talk. I've never catered at a Lake Powell event, but if I didn't pay them, I'll pay them triple whatever they weren't paid. Otherwise you're a liar. And they go away. Yeah. But it's like, you have to protect your reputation. And it's like, but people will just say the craziest shit. And I always call them out directly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it was just during all of it, it was like more, it sucked because no one believed me at the time. And I had told Tate the story that happened. Like the guy who had caught feelings, he came and told me he had feelings for me. And so I went and told Tate, and that's another, one of his friends. And so when everything came out,
another one on top of it.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And then
what was he thinking at that point? He's just like, I'm going to shoot my shot as well, or what?
Yeah,
Jeez,
I think so. And so then they all thought I was lying about that. They're like, that never happened. Taylor was trying to cover up her tracks. I was like, that only makes me look worse. Why would I do that to myself? That doesn't even make sense. And so they never, Tate believed me because I told him all of this stuff all along. So he knew it was true.
Yeah.
But everyone else was like, she's lying. So I was like, whatever. I don't even care. Call me liar. And then there was rumor that a guy came out at Lifetime saying I've also had an affair with Taylor during this. And I was like, what? And so, like you said, I went to the source that was spreading it, and I was like, shut it down now, or we will get lawyers involved because this is like actual defamation because it's not true. And so, like, it was the weirdest thing that this guy was saying they had an affair with me, and I was like,
people will do the damnedest stuff to get significance. You know?
I was like, oh my gosh. And so that looked bad. I was like, Tate, just so you know, there's another rumor coming. And I was like, it's not true. He's like, I don't think he cared at that point. He's like, whatever, everything's just gone to shit. But I was like, holy crap. But
so what other things have you done as part of the healing process? Because you had so much going on, so much drama, so much pain, right? And there's so many people involved. So I guess what I want to kind of learn and kind of help people that maybe find themselves in a situation where they're trying to pick up the pieces, what kind of things did you do to start being able to heal?
Well, I'm still in that process. Let me be honest that I thought I had hit the worst in June and July. I was like, oh, this is the worst pain. It'll never feel worse, whatever. I'm like getting through it. No, I was not even close. That was more of shock mode. And then I think November, December, this last few months is where it really all hit me. I went into a deep depression. I was going to therapy for a little bit, quit that because I thought I was getting better. And so I was like, I don't need it. And then I thought of antidepressants, but I was like, let me just give myself a second. I had surgery. So like they say you can go through like depression a little bit after surgery. So I didn't know if that was causing it, but the holidays hit and I think everything just finally hit me like, holy shit. My kids part-time, that was really hard. Like the quiet house. I just lost so much. And then my ectopic pregnancy. So I had just went through 7 weeks of like bleeding and pain, and that was physically like torturing. I feel like
that was with Dakota, right?
Yeah. And that was another thing. My body was so stressed over. I was like losing hair because I was like so stressed because not only what just happened, but this is all going to go on the internet and I'm going to deal with this now and be judged for it, right? Because it's so fresh and new. And at the time I wasn't scared. For me, like pregnancy, I was like kind of excited. I don't know if it was like just like because babies bring such like, they're hard, but they bring joy. It's like an angel sent from heaven. And so I was like kind of like excited, but then they thought I miscarried. And so I was like, okay, that sucks. And I was like taking that all in and depressed. And then I talked about this a little bit, but then my levels went back up. So like, you didn't miscarry. you're still pregnant. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I'm excited again now, but I'm bleeding a lot. So I'm like, something's not right. And then they ended up, saying it was an ectopic. And
sorry, I'm a little naive, but what does that mean?
So it's where the egg implants in the fallopian tube rather than your uterus. So it doesn't have room to grow. So if it does grow most girls don't find out till their fallopian tube is busted. It grew and and so then if you don't have both, I think you can't have kids. And so, I caught it early enough that they can give you a shot. It's either that or surgery. They have to go in and, take it out. And so they found it early enough because I was always calling. I was like, something's wrong. And so they're like, they gave me the shot that can just dissolve all the cells. That was really, really hard. And then I went in, I think, another depression because I had just lost that and then everything. And so I just was in bed for 4 days. I remember I could not get out of bed for the life of me. And I cry about twice a week. So I've done a lot of grieving. And I usually resort to partying when I'm hurting. And so I did that for a little bit and I was like, that sucks. It's making me worse.
Of course.
And so I have just gone mostly, sober. I've gone sober through all of this. And so I'm really taking it in and just hurting. And so I feel like I'm still in a lot of pain. And that's what's hard in my relationship is because it's I'm dealing with all this pain and still trying to navigate that and trying to I'm getting better. I can kind of feel me healing a little bit, but healing is it's not a pretty process. It's hurting and feeling all those feelings. And that's what I'm still in my house. Those are the TikToks that have been going viral because my house was so messy. And then you have the people that can relate and be like, yeah, when you're depressed, there's no helping yourself. And then you have the people that are how is this happening, right? So it's that is very been controversial, but it's I have so much anxiety and depression that I don't care. You don't care about anything. And that was hard for my kids. And that's where I have a lot of mom guilt. I think I was a shitty mom because I was so depressed. It was hard to be around them because I couldn't be happy. And then I'd cry and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible mom. So then I felt like a shitty mom on top of everything. And so it's just everything piling up and it's just holy shit. I don't think I even realized all the traumatic events that I had been through until the end of this year. And it's and then Tate's even, told me, he's give yourself some grace. You've been through a lot. Stop. I'm just putting it all on me. I did this. I'm in pain. I deserve this. That's what I always say. I'm I'm being tortured because I've done this to myself. I thought all these things are just it's karma, And so he finally, I'm just always asking him, are you happy? Are you okay? He's give yourself grace. You weren't the only one that did this. This was, a group setting and we were in a marriage, it's not just you. And so I'm finally to the point, maybe I need to at least, give myself a break. But, people are how have you moved on? How are you doing so well? And it's I've been awful. I've been very shitty and I put a lot of blame on myself. I've been miserable. But yeah, I'm finally getting to, I think, a healthier state, even with physically. I was down to 90 pounds. I looked anorexic. I was sick. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was oh my gosh, I look sick. My people were your face is so sunken in. So that was more stress. And I was it was just everything. But I finally think I'm getting to a healthier spot and I just really want to start therapy and understand where are my triggers coming from? Why can't I forgive myself?
Yeah. Well, what's next for you? Or is there points when all this was going on that you wished you were never public? Did you have moments where you're oh man, if I could just delete it all? Did you almost delete everything? I did. I was let's just take a month off. But then I'm this is now my job and I need to support my family and this is doing really good now. So it's if I can at least make money and save some in the bank, I have 2 kids now that I have to support. So it's not easy just to say, I'm going to quit. Mm-hmm. And yes, I can go find a different job, but it's this is a job that's giving me, I'm making a lot of money with flexibility, able to stay home with my kids when I can. And I'd rather choose that and to take this hard route right now because now I'm it's getting better, right? And I have this, but if I would have shut it all down, I wouldn't have had this and then I had to go find a 9-to-5 job, right? And I'm paying someone. So it's I did have to think about all those things. And I would say there was a point I was very I wouldn't say suicidal, but I think I would have been if I didn't have kids. I think there was a point where I was I don't want to do this or be here anymore. But I never got to that point because I was I can't do that to my kids. Because I dealt with that in my late teens, suicide and stuff. Mm-hmm. I struggled with that already. But I think if it weren't for them, I would have really been really low. But thank goodness for them. I was I had something to live for.
and try and get better.
Do you feel like you got past that point?
Yeah. That was really hard. I was just in bed and Dakota like would hold me and I'm like, I would cry to him and be like, I literally just like don't want to be here. And I'm hurting like so bad. Like it's hard to even like, I get choked up even talking about it because it's just like such a like a important subject that people can feel so low. And it's like people on the internet don't understand like what you're saying. It can hurt people.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good with like shutting it off, but there's a point where Dakota's like, I think this is affecting you more than you think it is. Like you're reading this all day about
I was going to ask you, were you reading comments while people were coming at you?
Yeah. And there's a lot of them I didn't care about, but like when you believe those things, it hurts worse. Because when people used to say, you're a shitty mom, you're this or that, I'd be like, I'm good. I'm a great mom. Yeah. But when you actually believe it, it's like, holy shit, that stings. And so when you believe it, it hurts a lot worse. And so at this time, I've never been so insecure. I've never been so like low that it all did affect me a lot. I think more than I would let like myself believe, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that also took a toll. Not only everything that's going down, but the entire world is watching it, like entire TikTok and like judging me, right? So it was like...
Do you have a system or a method that you use now to get yourself in a good place, like to positive mindset type stuff or anything like that?
I would say just like take it, you know, day by day. Getting out of bed is very important for me. Like if I had to give anyone advice, it's like, it's hard. I know it is so hard to get out of bed when you're in this like state of mind and so depressed. It's like, if you can just at least get out of bed, I'd force myself to the gym, force myself to clean at least a closet or do something like productive or take my kids somewhere, just force it. And then eventually it becomes more of a habit and you're helping yourself without even knowing, like the gym, right? Yeah. That's hard for people. Force yourself, create that habit, and then you're like, whoa, I'm actually going without even noticing, right? It's the same thing with trying to heal. It's like, get out of bed if you can. You're sitting in bed is going to make it worse. I would sit there in my thoughts and like, you know, make it worse and feel sorry for myself. It's like, that's not helping me. Get up and help yourself. So I think that's very important, is just to, if you can get out of bed and do one productive thing. That helped me a lot. Listening to uplifting podcasts, you know, or reading self-help books. Like I did literally everything in the book to try to help myself.
Awesome. Yeah.
Church.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go to church, but it might make me feel better to try to be.
Did the church better. Make you feel better when you were gone?
I've only gone a couple times. It did. Crazy story. If you're not even for LDS, but like if you're religious, the Sundays that I did go to church were the hardest evenings I ever had. And I believe that because I was trying to be better and be good, that the devil was like, nah, I think I'm going to make this. It was the hardest days I ever had. Mm. I remember I went not too long ago, I went to church and I felt really good. I was trying to be good, do everything I could. And that night I had so much rage and anger in me. Me and Dakota got in this like big fight, and it was me. It was like something that came over me, and I was crazy. I like squished an energy drink so hard that I cut my hand open. And so I was like, and it was like one of the worst anger days I had. And so I firmly believe, because I was trying to be good, that the devil was like, it was more like I was like tempted to be bad more. Like it was like he knew that I was trying to be good. He wanted to tempt me more. I'm already doing the devil's work normally, right? Like I'm crazy. And so he's like, he doesn't really try on me. But the day I tried to be good, I think he was like, oh, I think we're going to give Taylor a hard time. And so then in my head, I was like, I just went to church and this is how I'm like feeling. I feel like shit. And that's what I think he wanted me, is to like think, because I you know, tried, then I don't know what it was, but it was one of the 2 hardest days. Yeah, that I went to church. I thought it was weird. Probably some truth in that. So what is the next steps for you? I know we talked about before we started filming the podcast, you might have a TV show in the works. What else tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, I feel like I'm not on hold, but I'm kind of just waiting to see where that goes in order to kind of determine what way I want to go. We are... I can't say the production yet, but like they're just kind of talking about it still. We haven't heard no, so that's why we're like not shutting it down completely. We're like thinking it's no, because there just hasn't been a no, and that no's are usually really quick. So it's kind of a waiting game, and these things can take a while. But I think just like kind of going, I want to still stick with like TikTok and then YouTube. I would love to dabble into if the show doesn't happen. If not, then that would probably kind of be hard to like balance it all. And then I want to get into like just like properties, like real estate, like just to kind of invest in properties. I want to do that if I can. I want something else other than like social media because that goes away. And so it's like, I need to be smart with that.
Smart. But, yeah. Are you worried at all with the TikTok? There's rumors they're going to get rid of it.
It would suck, but I'm not worried. I mean,
you could transfer your audience pretty quick to YouTube or Instagram or Reels or whatever, I guess, right?
Yeah, and then whatever. Then I think if they're just gonna remake it, so it's like I just try to like go on to the next thing.
Have you captured a lot of your audience outside of TikTok? Do you have any kind of funnels or anything you've done to just to protect?
I haven't, which I need to like. That's the thing is you're supposed to like spread them to all platforms, and I think the only one I've been consistent with is TikTok. I've taken like kind of a break from everything other than TikTok because that's my job. So I'm kind of just trying to stay consistent, but I would like to get more back on Instagram, YouTube, all platforms if I can.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the TV show works out. It'd be fun to watch. I wouldn't lack drama, I'm sure, but.
Gosh, so we saw a preview. Like a little sneak peek. It looks wild and the way they like can cut it and, do it, but it looks cool. I don't know if I can say that. But yeah, it looks fun if it does. It can be scary, right? Because it's even a bigger audience, right? At that point, and I guess they can portray you however they want, and so
yeah. One of my close buddies, his wife is the new wife on, yeah, and I actually was with him the other day, and I was like, "Bro, is this a good idea?" And he's like, because I mean, they can make you look like whoever they want, and it's a huge audience, and he basically said, I'm keeping off of it, and I don't want to give away like his part of it, but sure. I think he's going to be a very small, if any, part of it. But I was just like, dude, they can make you look however they want. You have one bad moment where you snap at somebody or just sarcastically, you're trying to be funny or anything, and they can make you look like a total jerk or whatever. But
I know. And that's the thing is like, I have a hard time being emotional too, like on screen, where it was like, I feel like if that, does air, like, it's hard for me to be vulnerable like that in a group setting where I am crying every single day, but they're not going to see any of that. So like, I would hate for them to be like, Taylor's an emotionalist bitch. Like,
yeah, but you're going to be the star. I mean, they're going to try to make people, like you because that's what's going to attract you or really hate you, I guess. Create an emotion around you one way or another.
Yeah, the thing is like, I want to be like true to myself, and it's really hard for me to like break down on, screen and around people. But
fair. Well, thanks so much. Hopefully it was somewhat therapeutic to just tell your story. And,
oh my gosh, I felt like I was in therapy.
Yeah, I loved just talking about the lessons, there's so much to learn, and I appreciate your vulnerability of just being open and sharing it, because I have a lot of people that I feel like are in your same spot that I know, and the ones that I don't know that are thinking, gosh, this is a little stagnant. This is a little still. Maybe I need something different. And I do think that there's a lot of things to take away from your story. And thankfully,
can I just say that the grass is not greener on the other side. So if they are thinking about anything, it's been hell. So if you can work it out and you have any hope of wanting to work it out, I say try as hard as you can, because it's not better on the other side. So.
And if it is over, end it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, better way.
Well, thanks so much again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, see you too.
See ya.